I'm a journalist working with the Times of India, Pune. I'm not a trained academician. I'm not trained into philosophy as well. But I think this is a gathering of people from diverse fields. So somewhere or the other, I think I can fit in. And I'm also not used to speaking. I'm used to writing, not used to giving these presentations. But I'm pursuing my PhD on the speeches of Swami Vivekananda and Jiddu Krishnamurti. And when I saw the flyer for this conference, the name of Jiddu Krishnamurti, how he acted as a philosophical counselor, that caught my attention, and I just decided to give it a go. So, title of my presentation is Understanding Oneself: Jiddu Krishnamurti's Insights into Philosophical Counseling. So, Jiddu Krishnamurti has given so many insights into philosophical counseling, but here I'm to get it more focused. I'm confining myself to just one aspect of his teachings, which is understanding oneself. Now, I think most of you are philosophers. You have heard of Jiddu Krishnamurti, so there is no problem at all. But for those who may not be aware of Jiddu Krishnamurti's approach, Jiddu Krishnamurti actually refused to philosophize and systematize his teachings. He repudiated connections with all organized religions and philosophies. So we cannot say his teachings are Hindu or Buddhist, because this is what he categorically denied. Secondly, Jiddu Krishnamurti also said that there is no path to the truth. Truth is a pathless land. That is a very famous statement of Krishnamurti. So it is I at least find it is very difficult to speak on Krishnamurti, because he has closed all the possibilities of someone coming and interpreting his teaching, or having any commentary, or having any opinion on his teachings. And he feels that teachings should be disseminated as they are, with minimal possible interpretation. And that is the reason that I have found that not too many researches are being conducted on Jiddu Krishnamurti, even universities abroad. Even to an extent, I have found while speaking to some people, or with some academicians. I'm a journalist, because I keep asking questions to academicians most of the times. And most of the in the field of philosophy, they have opined that Jiddu Krishnamurti, they don't consider him to be a philosopher as well. But I think we need more and more focus on him. At least such new fields like philosophical counseling are coming up. We can borrow some insights for this field. So Jiddu Krishnamurti has immaculately integrated the views in philosophy, psychology, and religion. And I think academic scholarship and even the fields of social sciences and psychology, they should take a closer look at this seamless integration. Again, this is a session, this is a philosophy and method. As I have already told earlier, it is very difficult to speak on Krishnamurti, because he is categorically against method. He never says, never ask how, is his famous statement. So the moment I say that I'm offering a framework that is contradicting Krishnamurti directly. So this is not framework like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of a best. It is a very conceptual framework, because I don't find any other word. So I have used the word framework. So I think Krishnamurti adds a very much philosophical dimension to the field of philosophical counseling, because he is categorically saying that what is he doing is not a therapy, but he is utterly concerned with healing of mankind. Secondly, though Jiddu Krishnamurti himself did not want to identify himself as a counselor or a guru, there are so many people who looked up to him as a philosopher and counselor. And I think even if Jiddu Krishnamurti did not encourage it, but if we are able to borrow some insights, and if that acts as a catalyst in self-transformation, then there is no harm in doing so. So let me start. This is Krishnamurti. This diagram is condensing Krishnamurti's teachings. In short, before I come to philosophical counseling, so Krishnamurti is talking about his take on consciousness is very different. His take on self is very different. He is denying all the philosophical and religious theories of self. What is he saying? That you are is your conditioning. Human mind is your conditioning. So thought is response to the memory. Memory is always from the known. Known is that conditioning. Then the conditioned mind. He is talking about how conditioned mind cannot observe. And what philosophical counseling can borrow from Krishnamurti is becoming aware of our conditioning, becoming aware of our own responses. And even Krishnamurti has spoken what we have heard since yesterday, also being with in the company of nature, writing, maintaining your journal, writing down your own thoughts. But when it comes to Krishnamurti, these terms are little different. Like, for example, meditation. For Krishnamurti, meditation doesn't imply any categorical method, sitting down, closing your eyes. There is no mantra in Krishnamurti. For Krishnamurti, meditation is emptying the content of consciousness. It is observing, it is observation where there is no observer. Or another interesting definition that Krishnamurti is giving us is meditation is the breaking down of the meditator. So in Krishnamurti defined in short is seeing, doing in this present moment without any baggage of the past. So this is what Krishnamurti in short, where there is pure meditation, there is no meditator, there is no observer. So once we are clear about Krishnamurti's approach, then I think we can proceed with philosophical counseling. Background discussion. Krishnamurti rubric of his teachings comprises a wide range of terms like meditation, observation, insight, or intelligence. These terms are also used in psychology, philosophy, and so many fields. But Krishnamurti used them with a different kind of, let us call it Krishnamurti diction. These are not the terms Krishnamurti used in conventional sense. Like I said, meditation, I have offered two definitions, that emptying the content of consciousness or maybe the breaking down of the meditator is meditation. Similarly, for observation, he is calling observing without the observer, where there is only observation. For example, I'm seeing the sunlight, and the moment I say sunlight is beautiful, there is no observation. But what I'm watching with my own conditioned mind, and that beauty, my concept of, if I'm watching the sunrise or sunset with my concept of beauty, then there is no pure observation. Sun is sun. It is neither ugly nor beautiful. This is what Krishnamurti is trying to imply, which is what I think. So his teachings can be condensed into just two sentences, which is understanding yourself. And his unmistakable intensity in pointing out the urgency of change is evident in his lectures as well as his writing. Unfolding the problems of living, which is like sorrow, conflict, jealousy, which he called the contents of consciousness. He initiated the self-inquiry into our very being. This paper argues that the field of philosophical counseling can borrow concrete insights from Krishnamurti's explanation of self-transformation that doesn't depend on time, method, and also knowledge. But at the same time, like I have already mentioned earlier, we need to get aware of what Krishnamurti means by time, what Krishnamurti means by method, and what Krishnamurti means by knowledge. He is not talking about the knowledge which is very typical, but he is talking about the knowledge which is everything is into the past. And whatever knowledge which we borrow from the book, Krishnamurti calls it all information. Between time also, he distinguishes between chronological time and psychological time. But that is not point of my discussion, so I won't be delving deeper into that. So what are the three insights I think the field of psychological insight can borrow from Krishnamurti? Its first is knowing yourself according to you are. That is the first thing. Secondly is the dialogical approach of Krishnamurti. Many, I think, presentations have already taken place on this dialogical approach. And third is called a quantum approach to transformation. It is a possible framework without a method for philosophical counseling. So let us come to the first, knowing yourself according to you are. Krishnamurti had a different approach towards all gurus. He said that if you want to know yourself, then reading any philosophical books, reading any religious books is not going to help. So what will help you in understanding yourself is just watching your own responses without passing any judgment onto them. So here I think that participants, philosophical counselors can help participants to know themselves according to they are, and without interfering or without passing too many opinions on their conditions. But if counselors can be a very catalytic agents in telling that you are alone, counselors are there together physically, but this is the field of psychological inquiry where there is no intellectual analysis. Here, I think counselors can encourage participants to conduct this inquiry psychologically alone, because no one better than you can understand or get into this self-inquiry. And secondly, this self-inquiry is different from psychoanalysis, or this is not a typical introspection, because introspection also comes with quite some opinions and some baggage of the past, and this is what Jiddu Krishnamurti discouraged altogether. Then secondly, this is knowing, living according to some philosopher or some religious teachers. This is what Krishnamurti called second-hand living. So he also did not encourage that we go on quoting him or giving references even from his own teachings. Then I think a greater contribution of Krishnamurti to the field of psychological counseling is that making everyone aware of one's own conditioning and consciousness, which is common to humanity. So Krishnamurti says there is nothing like your opinion or my opinion, but it is just an opinion. So self, according to Krishnamurti, is all conditioning, sorrow. I think we have already seen this. Then the choiceless awareness is what that observing yourself without passing on any judgment. Again, we can quote the example of the sunset, that we should be watching, not should be. Just sunset is sunset. The moment we say that sunset is beautiful, then the judgment is coming in. Then there is no pure observation. I will be elaborating on choiceless awareness later on, so I will skip this part. Then second part, even dialogical approach of Jiddu Krishnamurti. Jiddu Krishnamurti would typically start his discourses on let us investigate into the problems of day-to-day living. He would say that it is not just because I'm sitting on the stage doesn't mean that I have got certain authority to speak. He made it categorically clear that listeners are with him into this investigation, and he and listeners are together exploring these problems of living, that just like Buddha, that why there is sorrow. So he goes on to investigating, and he is telling people that he is not any authority. So therefore, dialogue and inquiry, they have contemplative underpinnings in a Krishnamurti discourse. Krishnamurti allowed questions to be answered and truths to be revealed through a free-flowing conversation where the pursuit of meaning is not the focus. Secondly, this paper argues that art of dialogue that Krishnamurti extensively employed for his schools as well as for his public dialogues, it can be potentially be explored as a tool for philosophical counseling. Thirdly, let us coming to the last insight that we can take from Krishnamurti, which is quantum leap approach to transformation. There is a possibility of framework without method for philosophical counseling. So what is this quantum leap approach? I think when typical religions are concerned, there are two approaches to transformation. For example, you have to jump. What Krishnamurti would say that what Ashtanga Yoga or other methods, they are talking about the mantra, they will take you there step by step. So if you do certain chant certain mantra, do certain step, then you will reach at a certain level. So it has to do with little hierarchical approach. But what Jiddu Krishnamurti is asking you to take the jump immediately. So Krishnamurti is talking about the transformation which is here and now. Therefore, I had mentioned earlier that Jiddu Krishnamurti is talking about a transformation which does not depend on time, knowledge, and method. And according to him, that knowledge is a product of time, because it is always of the past. And a method also brings in time, because the moment you say how to do it, then chant some mantra. So the transformation is not right now in a moment, but I will chant something, I will sit, meditate, then something will happen. So either it will be of the past or it will be of the future. It won't be confined to the present moment. Secondly, I think there are four keywords as such that we can take for Krishnamurti and counseling. One is observer is the observed, then listening, the third is meditation, and fourth is the choiceless awareness. So Krishnamurti is fathoming the depths of observing in totality. If we just understand this one thing, observer is the observed. What Krishnamurti says, again coming, I'm quoting the same example because I think that makes it relatively easy to sense it. The moment I'm saying this, passing any judgment on the sunset, there is no sun, but there is a judgment of, there is more about, I'm speaking or what I'm watching is the beauty of the sun and not the sun itself. So observer is observed. My observation comes through my conditioning, my lenses. Then I'm not observing what is the sun as it is. So observer is the observer. That observer is the observer's conditioning. And whenever we are observing without the observer, there is no observer anymore, but there is just observation. Secondly, listening. What is that listening? We have also heard listening is patient hearing or letting participants other speak more. But in a Krishnamurti discourse, listening has, I think, much more underpinning. What Krishnamurti is saying that listening is not just to other, but even it is listening to quietude, listening to the nature. Listening is understanding of truth at much deeper level. And he says the transformation depends much more on how one listens. Listening to what is being said without filtering it through your own lenses. Then choiceless awareness. Choiceless awareness is purely, we have already said that it is the observation without any evaluation and without any judgment. The moment we are breaking down the meditator, what remains as meditation. Similarly, the moment we are breaking down the observer, now effortlessly. Effortlessness is also very important keyword in Krishnamurti discourse. The moment we are breaking down the observer, there remains pure observation. And choiceless awareness is that awareness. Generally, when Krishnamurti, his official biographer, was writing down the gist of Krishnamurti's teachings, she had written something, but Krishnamurti rejected everything and he wrote a paragraph which is there on Krishnamurti web, which is called Core of the Teachings. And I have taken one paragraph from that, what Krishnamurti has said that freedom is not a reaction. Being able to choose, we think that we are privileged when I'm choosing something. But according to him, choice entails confusion. And being able to choose is not freedom, but that is more of a bondage. So freedom is pure observation without direction, without a fear for punishment and reward. Freedom is found in choiceless awareness of our daily existence. So I'm just coming to the conclusion now that this paper has discussed the framework, which is very conceptual, on Krishnamurti's teachings, based on self-understanding, understanding oneself, being totally psychologically alone in this inquiry, not living the second-hand life, knowing yourself according to a philosopher or according to a psychologist, according to Krishnamurti, it had no meaning. Then secondly, we have also seen that how philosophical counselors can act as catalytic agents, not as an authority or not as an advisors. Then this paper also explains Krishnamurti's contribution to the field of philosophical counseling, which is seamlessly integrating the problems of day-to-day living with our very being. His insights on listening and observation have potential to become a point of departure to initiate a philosophical dialogue. And this paper concludes that a conceptual framework based on Krishnamurti's teachings has transformative possibilities only if philosophical counselor understands the final nuances of Krishnamurti's teachings. And I think concluding remarks, they can be summed up in Krishnamurti's own words, which is, you must be liberated, not because of me, but in spite of me. And the last, there are limitations. Please do not misunderstand. These are not the limitations of Krishnamurti's teachings, but these are limitations of my framework that I have presented for philosophical counseling. First and foremost, because this model is conceptual, so if there are any challenges in implementation of this framework, these would be conceptuals as well. Secondly, there is no way to, if, for example, if I say I met a counselor and I'm transformed, I am the best person to tell you that I'm transformed, but there is no measurability to say how am I transformed. So this model cannot be assessed on the criteria of workability. There is no, I think, qualitative, there is no quantitative measure to prove the efficacy of this model. But of course, transformation is a very qualitative, I think, criteria. So it can only be qualitatively measured, not quantitatively. And most important that philosophical counselors must have some familiarity with Krishnamurti's approach, because unless and until we are familiar with the words, meaning of the words, that meditation, insights, or choiceless awareness, in a sense, Krishnamurti is using them, then only it makes sense. If we are using these words without Krishnamurti in background, then there are more chances of misunderstanding than getting the right import across. Thank you.